Yep.
Hey everybody, welcome. I am Casey Droege. I run a little company called Casey Droege Cultural Productions, and we have a number of programs that we focus in the Pittsburgh area, one of which is PGH Photo Fair. And if you're familiar with it, it's an annual program. I co-direct with Evan Mirapal. We bring in about 15 to 17 galleries from around the country to showcase their photography programs. And it's free and open to the public for one weekend. But of course, this year it's canceled. So instead, we've taken everything online as best we can. So we're doing our speaker series, which is something that we do annually. We feature collectors and curators who talk about the behind the scenes stuff of photography. And then this year we decided to partner up with Small Mall. So, excuse me, Small Mall is our concept store for CDCP. We have a location in Lawrenceville and also in Wilkinsburg. And we decided to do these tiny talks all summer. Excuse me, guys, a little bit of a rasp. It's not COVID, I swear. So we're happy to team up with Photo Fair, combine the two to feature local photographers. And tonight we've got Ivania Evangelique, who's also known as Zeal Eva. Vanya, can you say hi?
Hi.
Welcome. We're really excited to have you here tonight to talk about your work. Vanya is an artist who works with photography, with painting, with illustration. She's shown around the region, including bunker projects, excuse me, Boom Concepts, University of Pittsburgh, among others, some really great places. She works to create a sense of joy and discovery, celebration, and even a sense of kindness in her work. So Vanya, we're thrilled you're here. Are you ready to talk about your work a little bit?
Yes, I am. Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna share the screen so I can figure out how to do it again.
And while Vanya's sharing her screen, just take note that we have the chat open. So if you have questions at any time, feel free to jump in and put them in there. And then later on, when we're done, we'll open it up for you to unmute yourselves and you can actually ask questions that way too. All right, Vanya, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So I made a presentation just talking about my work and my practice. So I call myself Zeal Eva, Zeal Eva Visuals, just because I don't necessarily only work with photography, but also work in film and painting. So Vanya Evangelique to Zeal Eva. I first started off just cutting off my last name, just so I can just redevelop my own sense of identity in my art. And I was like, Vanya Evangelique also just sounds like a really cool name just to have as an artist. But over time, I kind of started getting bogged down with just always using my government name as in connection with my art. And I remember one time I was in a relationship and I was telling him about the show I ended up doing years later. And he called me overzealous. And I took it as an insult. And I was like, I didn't like that. But I ended up looking up the root word for zeal, overzealous, which is just zeal. And it means just to be a great energy or enthusiasm in the pursuit of something. And then I just chopped off the rest of my middle name and then picked Eva. So it just really means through my art, I'm just pursuing myself. So we got that. I also wanted to thank my little brother, who's not here, for the beautiful portrait that he took of me, because I know he didn't want to do it. So starting off with my photography, when we moved to Freemansburg, PA, it's mostly just trees and landscapes and rural PA. And I didn't really have enough confidence in myself to interact with people yet. So I really just started taking photos of portraits and trees, well, not portraits, landscapes and trees and the nature that I see around me. So here's one in Sand Island Park. It's just a trail that runs about I think 68 miles of just trees and nature and trails. So yeah, these are some of the photos that I just used to take just to reconnect me to the land that's around me and the stuff that I see every day. These were taken recently, also near Sand Island Park and near the spots by my house. But over time, I was like, well, I can't have like the same growth that I want just taking photos of like plants and trees and nature, because they're not going to have that same interaction that I wanted. So I started moving on to more portraits and projects. I remember starting off my freshman year of college, just picking like every single week. I told myself I was going to take a portrait of at least one person, like every single week, just to like build my confidence in that. So one of the major projects I did was actually before I graduated, and it was a project called Soft. I was dealing just with a lot of personal issues with how people tended to like approach me and approach like how I like talk to others and just how they saw me. So I wanted to just like explore different color concepts and just portray Black women in like more of a softer light. So this is the first major project I did in a studio setting at my school. And pictured here is Jaquia May. A lot of the people that I also used for portraits were just people I messaged on Facebook that ended up turning into really good friends. So I also used Davina Rose and Tara Faye in London for this project. And then my second major project that I worked with as far as portraiture goes was God Used Her. So I wanted to just connect my relationship with the Bible to my practice into photography. So I remembered reading and like hearing stories about like God and like women in the Bible and also men in the Bible from my mom and my grandmother, who are Black women. And so when they would tell us like these stories, me and my siblings, I would picture them as, as my grandmother and as my mother. So I used my home studio when I lived in Pittsburgh back in February. And I also made sure that I was just testing myself and testing my abilities. So I asked my one friend, Imani Jahan, and her Instagrams are there. She's an amazing makeup artist in person. She can, come up with like clothes and like concepts and just make up for it, because I've never done that before, like coming up with a project from conception and using other people within my work. So the first one that I had was Mary of Nazareth, and I used one of my friends, Autumn, and this is just one of the scriptures that kind of like spoke out to me when working on this project and trying to do research on how I would photograph them, what kind of lighting I would use, and also what type of colors and like how I would dress them. The next was Mary Magdalene, because I didn't really hear much about her like in the Bible, but yet she was like very like important, and people really didn't take her as anything special, but someone else did, and someone else gave her the chance. So I also wanted to input her there. And then Eve, who was photographed by Jaquia May. And I also, just thinking about like Eve, I thought of her like as a mother, as like the first woman, so giving life. And the way that I chose to dress Jaquia was in the same way that I saw the women in my family dress and the people that inspire me and are important to me. After that, after those two projects, over time, kind of just continued asking friends for portraits and just trying out new things. They were never like, a lot of the people that I work with, they're always nervous. It's like, no, I'm not like a really big model. I don't really do anything like that. But I'm like, this is the time where like we kind of just connect and become comfortable. And a lot of them are friends or strangers that end up becoming friends in the future. This was a mini project I did with my old elementary school friend, Laura, called Feels Like Summer. And she just wanted to work in the field. And this is of my other friend, Calvin. So recently in March, because it's been a long year, I was asked to have a solo show at Bunker Projects. So I'm also grateful for that opportunity, where I was just able to show my work. I was given the ability to just curate my own stuff, which was cool and new. So moving back home was just different, because I already left. I was living in Pittsburgh for a while. I was kind of just doing my own thing. And then life happened. And then I had to move back home. And so I was like, I don't want to make any work. I don't want to be here. Why am I, still doing the stuff I was doing before, but now I can't. And I think this was almost like a saving grace, because it kind of gave me the ability to reconnect with my hometown, but see it in a way that's different and not from like the view of trauma. So with the project, I kind of like walked through old neighborhoods that I used to live and I used to interact with, but it felt different and it felt new because I was older and because I'm not necessarily experiencing it the same way that I did before. And while working on the project, I remember asking my mom and dad about just like, do you have photos of your, like yourself in your hometown when you were younger? And they said no to both of those. And I was like, wow, I need to like start documenting like my life and like what's going on. So I wanted to just take it upon myself to document also my family too, just to have them in a space where when we all get older, we remember like who we are and like what we looked like and where we lived. It's my family. And this is the home that I'm living in now. So moving forward with my art and with my practice, I just want to have the chance to just explore my home and more or less take more of like a documentary feel within my life and be able to tell my story. I feel like a lot of times I don't really do that because like I won't take photos at family events or uh, trips or any excursions or just sitting out because I'm like, well, someone else can do that because I'm tired of taking photos. But I feel like now it's my job to be the one who documents that and who tells the story of like myself and also my family and others and people who look like me. So here is some photos of my grandparents' house and my brother who graduated last month. Here's Rockaway Avenue where I used to grow up. And on the left is a spot in Bethlehem where me and my best friend used to go and like go to the park and just hang out like all night. So yeah, this is what I, want to do. This is like my practice and who I am. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing that. Perfect. All right. So we're back here as a group, which is really nice. We're going to have a brief conversation. And like I said, if at any point you have questions for Vanya, just throw them into the chat. And then later on, we'll open it up for group questions as we get started. So Vanya, I would love to know a little bit about what your background is, what sort of led you into this process of making art.
So I've actually been involved with art all my life. My dad is a musician, he plays piano. My grandfather, before he passed, was an avid like photographer in like Trinidad and Tobago and also New York City. My sister's also like a musician. So I've always been involved in art, but it hasn't always been photography. So my first like couple years of high school, I actually wanted to be a jazz singer, like really bad. I wanted to be like Jill Scott and like tour the world and do all this cool stuff. But then I was like, it's not for me because I was always singing or like playing the drums or sax or just like music-based stuff, and it didn't feel good, and I couldn't picture myself as like a visual artist because I never actually was exposed to that as often as I would like. But when I went to school, my freshman and sophomore year of high school, I was there for vocal music, and that was my major. And then some stuff happened, and a lot of drama ensued, and I was like, I don't need to be here anymore. I'm going to transfer. And so I transferred to my public high school. So my previous high school only had 400 kids, and then my public high school had 5,000 kids. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to know anyone. This is going to be like really awkward and uncomfortable. And the first group I joined was Yearbook, and they needed a photographer. And I remember her, Miss Gillard, she was like, hey, you seem like you'd be really good at this. Here's a camera and you're taking photos of the football game. And I was like, all right, I don't do sports. And I don't know what a camera is. So what is this? She's like, all right, you can just do the basics and you'll be fine. And I'm like, all right, this is okay. And then as soon as I went there that night and I started taking photos and I looked at them, I was like, wow, I created that. I was like, this is amazing. All right, I can do this. And then after that, it kind of just became something that I like loved. And I remember coming home and be like, Mom, you need to get me a camera, like right now. She was like, why? And I'm like, I don't know, but I love it. I don't want to see what happens in the future. But yeah, that's how it kind of just like just started. And, you know, over time there was of course like breaks where I didn't feel like anything was getting done or nothing was happening. But then another shoot would come, and then or would have another idea or another project, and then it just kind of like kept rolling, and I had to just get used to the fact that it's going to be times and breaks where I don't want to do anything. And that's okay that I don't want to do anything.
Absolutely, yeah, and pretty normal, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that you're switching between media all the time, or do you kind of focus for a while on one and then switch to another?
I'm kind of like switching in between. I feel like now that, so being in Pittsburgh, trying to like figure out how do I continue to make money off of art. So I started painting more. So I think that switch to painting and photography kind of helps me stay balanced and not feel like I'm, you know, not being stagnant. Because whenever I'm not taking portraits or doing photo work, I know I'm painting and creating something in a different way. So I feel like I'm almost like working out different muscles that I wouldn't have done before because I can't do both at the same time.
Makes
Like,
sense.
yeah.
Have you had any really memorable responses to your work?
All the time, constantly, which is cool. It's a lot. It's really different. It's a lot of times it's just like strangers just like encouraging me to continue doing more work, or they're sharing grants or other like photo opportunities and painting and mural stuff with me, which is nice because I'm like, I don't know these people, but they've seen my work from other people and other friends. And in my head, I don't talk to a lot of people like that for it to, for it to be there. So I think like the support that I have and the support that I get is like, it feels really good. I think the biggest just in-person support that I've like seen was at my show at Bunker. Um, I think that was also like the last time of like major interaction with a whole bunch of people at once because it was the week before Corona hit.
Yeah.
Um, and just like, and just seeing like all the people that like showed up to my show, because I was very nervous. I'm like, I don't live in Pittsburgh anymore. I'm not from Pittsburgh. I don't know what's going on. Are people going to show up? Like, are people going to care about like, you know, me telling like my story and showing photos of my family as like babies and myself as a kid? Like, no one's going to care about that. And just the amount of people that kept like pouring in and like stopping me and like talking to me was like really good. And I was crying all night. So it was like, this is great. I didn't know that this could, you know, happen or be a thing. It was
That's
cool.
great. And you said for the show at Bunker, you had the opportunity to curate it yourself. So you selected the work and put it up and.
Yeah. So Tara, I remember I was at work. I was actually really stressed out at work. And Tara Faye actually just randomly texted me. And she was like, Bunker Projects March, like first Friday in March. Are you cool? I was like, all right, it's October. I only have a couple months. Yes, I can do it. Because I remember telling her before I moved out of Pittsburgh that I wanted to have a show near my birthday, which is in May. And I was like, I want to have it like near my birthday. I'm going to bring in 24, like having my own like solo show. It's going to be great. And before, like for a singular moment, I almost told her like, no, I'm not going to be ready. But I'm kind of happy I like went through with it because now I see the state of the world and I don't think I ever would have gotten the same chance like I had before.
That's great. I'm glad you had it too. Yes, one of the last few moments of socialization. Really
Yeah.
um, so how do you see your role as an artist in society?
I think, so I was thinking about this because I know you sent me this question and it's something I've been thinking about for a while. I think me just existing as a Black woman making art is enough. Like, I don't, for a while, I'm like, all right, how does my work fit into like activism or how does it fit into like telling Black people's stories? And I think it's just me being here and being able to be in a space to just like create and create freely, and also to provide other people with art and another way to just like be happy with just a little something, even if it's like a tiny painting or just another photo when they scroll down on Instagram and just seeing something different, I think that's enough. I think, that's all people need, because I think sometimes that's all I need, is to see someone else being happy and someone else like doing good for me to feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like in your statement that you write about encouraging people to experience a sense of kindness in your work. I think that's really, it's a really wonderful sort of sentiment to have, and hope that your audience experiences that. So
Thank you.
that's really nice. So you showed us a little bit of what you've been working on lately, photographing your hometown. Are you headed in any new directions? Do you have any new projects that you've been thinking about, or?
Yes. So I'm actually in the process right now of learning how to make my own clothes. Because I have all these like ideas like in my head. And then I go to the store to try to buy like the outfits for them, and they don't work out because I don't like them. And it's not what I pictured. So right now I'm just like taking a break from just taking photos and learning how to make like dresses and shirts and like pants and stuff, just so I can actually do what I'm picturing and not have anything less until I find like a fashion designer, or I can afford to pay like my friends to do it. But yeah, right now I'm just like focusing on just learning new skills, so that when I come back, I'm coming back a little bit better than when I stopped and when I left.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it seems like your work has really evolved in this sort of shorter career that you've had, right? You're sort of an emerging newer artist, and you've really pushed yourself to continue to evolve over the years. And I'd love to see what happens next. I mean, the clothing sounds really great. That'd be wonderful. I want to take a moment and open it up to everybody who's here. So if you have a question for Vanya, again, you can type it into the chat, or you are now allowed to unmute yourselves. So you can jump in and kind of give a wave and then ask a question if you'd like to do that too. So does anybody want to jump in?
Hey, Vanya. Hey, Casey.
Hey, Emily.
Everyone. I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. I enjoyed learning a little bit more about your practice. And I think this latest body of work, like these domestic scenes that you're documenting and the way you're documenting your family, that's really powerful. So is that something you feel like you're going to continue doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because I think I need to. A lot of like memory loss, like ones in my family. And so I remember visiting my grandmother a couple weeks ago, and she would call me by her daughter's name, and I'm like, this isn't her, but I look a lot like her, so she's forgetting who is who. And I notice, like, yeah, it's all across the board, like that happens. And so I know that when I get older, that may be something that happens to me. So I just want to be able to remember them as they are right now, because I may not remember them the same way later.
Yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. And I think, especially kind of to Casey's point, you being really just starting to get the ball rolling on your practice, to be in that headspace and to have so much road ahead of you, I think that's going to build into something really, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Thanks. And Jamie, anybody else want to jump in and ask a question?
Hey, Vanya. So sorry. Okay. Hi, Casey.
Hey, Michelle.
So, I've been able to see Vanya's work evolve over the years because I was lucky enough to go to school with Vanya.
Yeah.
How do you feel like what certain influences have like changed your work over the years? Like, was it like different people, or like, do you feel like you were taking in different like sources of inspiration or whatever? Like, do you find it's consistent or it's always different? Like, what kind of things have helped evolve your work over the years?
So I remember in college, they would always show us like really famous like photographers and people that I would probably never meet, who like passed away a long time ago. And I didn't really feel much of a connection with them. So honestly, a lot of my inspiration comes from the work of my friends. The stuff that they do, like their paintings, their photography, the way that they use color, it comes from them. I think my biggest inspiration in how I started taking like portraits and using colors that I like was from this guy named Stefan Trotman. Uh, I don't know if Tumblr's still a thing, but I remember seeing his photos on Tumblr, and I was like, wow, what if I message this guy and asked him for tips? And I'm like, the worst he could say is no, or just not answer, or he can like help me. And so I like messaged him. I think I was like, how old was I? Yeah, I think I was supposed to graduate. So it was like maybe like 17, 18. And I messaged him, I'm like, oh, I want to learn from you. Can you help me? And he was like, yeah, here's my number. This is what I do. He kind of like gave me tips. He like did like videos and all his shoots and stuff. And he kind of like became a mentor far away because he was in New York City and I'm still in PA. And I was like, this is great. And so looking at how he like photographed his work, how he like placed his models and like the locations that he used just helped me in like starting to develop like my own voice. And he'd always tell me like, your voice isn't going to be the same as mine or not as like anybody else's. So how are you going to tell your story through your photographs? And that really helped me. And then after that, I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to ask anybody like how they use their work. How did they make that? And just ask questions. Cause I'm like, now the worst that they could say is no, and then not help me. And then I'll just ask somebody else. So I hope that answers your question.
Is there anyone, Vanya, that you, like friends that have really made a huge impact that you want to shout out?
Mimi Zaza, I don't know if you know her, but follow her. She's really amazing Black artist. And Jamie, actually, your like photography work is amazing. When I like first met her, I was like, oh my gosh, who is she? Like, she's like crazy famous. And I'm like, no, she's just in Jamie. This is great. Those are my two biggest influences right now. Recently, I got this book of Monet paintings that I've been kind of like looking at when it comes to learning how to make clothes and what kind of colors and fabrics I want to use based off of the grooves of his artwork, just so I can start adding like more texture to my photos and not have them like, I feel like they're kind of like straight, so I just want to make them a little bit more bold. So I've been like, yeah, those three right now have been really good.
That's great. Anybody else want to jump in? Remember, if you're shy, you can always type a question. Well, while we're waiting for people to gather up courage, I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit more about your family playing into your work. So I love the story of the Bible-related work coming from these images of your mother and your grandmother portraying these women in your head, or the women looking like them, and now you're documenting your family. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So for a while I felt kind of I guess not weird. I just had a hard time trying to find the connection to like my spirituality and like my work, and how do I put those together. Jamie actually does like a really good job at doing that in like her like sculptural pieces. And I'm like, this is cool, but how do I do that in like photos, and how do I create that? So just thinking about just my experiences, and just, I almost sort of like take myself out of myself and just look at like the whole, like what am I seeing, like what am I experiencing, what's happening in these scenes, and how do they connect to the scenes that I feel every day. So that's where God Used Her kind of came from. I was in like a dark place when I started taking those photos and doing that project, and I was like, I need to do something to kind of just like bridge this gap. And I like started reading stories that like my grandmother used to tell, or she would like regurgitate just like really randomly when I'm like trying to open up to her. I'm like, all right, I don't know what this has to do with anything, but this is cool. And then it like popped in my head, and I'm like, well, this would be a great idea. How about I do that? Just trying to like also try out just conceptualizing like new things and more concrete stuff like my family with people in the Bible that I've never met and haven't seen. So with that, I have made like frequent trips to like my grandmother's house because we used to live there for a little bit. And my grandmother and grandfather always have like photos of the whole entire family, like across like their house. Like you can see all like the generations of just Arthurs in the family. And I'm like, this is really beautiful. I think I was like, I want that. And I would point to a picture of them, like, or like one random person who looks random to me. And my grandmother would like tell me all these stories and like the places that they would go. And I'm like, oh, this is how she like holds herself grounded to like her past and her memories. And I want to do that. Like, she's cool. I've also always been like, this is new for me because I've always just been nervous with taking photos of my family and doing that kind of work, just because I don't really mix my like professional practice with like my personal life. And so I consider my family my personal life. So I feel like by taking photos of them, it's almost like exposing them to another part of me that for a while I was like, no, you don't need to, you don't need to see that part because you're here and I'm over here doing something else. So now I'm like, no, this is both of me. Like, this is just me. Like, this is me. And I need to feel comfortable and confident enough in sharing those parts of myself with my family, but in a way that both of us can kind of understand each other. And the best way for me to be able to communicate is through my art. Because for a while, I didn't talk like at all. I would just like write something down or like write a poem or like make a drawing or something and be like, I hope you figure it out. And like, we'll be fine. But now I'm kind of like getting better at it. And photography for me is a way for me to like, yeah, I'm directing you how to pose. And like, now I'm going to just like open up to you a little bit. And then we're going to like open up to each other. And then it's great. Yeah,
creating those connections, and yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, it helps.
Good. All right, anybody else want to jump in with any questions? No? You sure? This is your last chance. All right, well, before we close out, oh wait, I see Aleem. Yes, hi.
Yeah, I guess it's not necessarily a really specific question, but I'm really interested in your exploring your hometown again. I feel like that's something that I do every time I go back home, since I am only there very intermittently. And it always feels like I'm a totally different person when I come back. And it's really interesting to sort of like capture that difference in photographs. And I'm wondering if you've maybe experienced anything similar or totally different. And I guess I'm curious how you sort of approach that in your image making and like how you fit it into the frame.
So when I was actually working on today and yesterday, it was weird. So the photo of like Ramblewood Lane was the street of the house that I used to grow up in. And my mom actually lives right down the street from me, which is weird because he was like, yeah, I'm never moving back there. Because there was a lot of stuff that happened. It was very traumatic. And one of the main reasons why I was like, all right, I need to go to college and just leave and then not come back. And so coming back and then seeing that street, I'm like, oh, back here again. I don't want to deal with it. But then I had to remember, like, it's just a street. The name of the street isn't going to change. It is what it is. So like, how am I looking at this now? Because I'm not 6. I'm not 6. I'm 24. So a lot of stuff has happened in between there. But for a while, working on the project, I did not go down that street like, at all. Like, I avoided it. I went like everywhere else but, and I would take a separate way to get to my mom's house just so I can avoid it. And I'm like, no, I have to just like walk through it and like, I'll be fine. Like like I'll be okay. So I remember I texted Sarah and I was like, this is really hard. I didn't think this project was going to be so difficult. I thought I was going to take some photos of the bodega and like, I'll be cool. I'll be all right. She told me to like take my time, and I told myself just to challenge like myself and like my thoughts, just to spend the entire day just like in that street near like 630 Believers where I used to live, and like walk around the neighborhood and like talk to the people who live there now, because they're not the same people who lived there 20 something years ago. So like kind of moving through that space made me feel better. Like, okay, I went through this terrible thing, but I overcame it and I'm better. Because now I don't have to do that. And I have it. So like I did it. But no, it's weird. I haven't really left since I moved back home. And now it's kind of like this thing where I love my hometown and I feel good about it. Before I was like, I don't want to be back here. Don't send me back. But I think from working on that project and continuously like being around spaces that I never really noticed before, kind of finding the time to just appreciate the things I never really was granted the chance to appreciate before, which is helping me kind of like just love the new space because I know I'm a changing person every day, even if my environment doesn't change. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a lovely presentation.
All right, thank
Am
you.
I muted? No, hi. Hi.
Hi.
I want to talk, hear you talk more about your curatorial practice and how the process of curating the show at Bunker was.
Thank you. So my actual first run-in with curating was through Associated Artists of Pittsburgh. I actually applied as their emerging curator, just like for the heck of it, and I ended up getting in. So shout out to Magdalene, because that was amazing. And I think doing that work and working with multiple artists at once and trying to figure out how all these styles just fit in together, like in unison, helped me to do my own work. So for a while working on the project, I just wanted it to be at first all photos. There would be no paintings, like nothing. And then I was like, well, that seems boring and ridiculous. So let me just switch it and just do all paintings and illustrations. And I was like, well, why don't I try to find a way to kind of mesh my two forms of art together? So that's where a lot of the newer work that I'm making now, as far as just like recreating spaces goes. A lot of places I didn't have access to it anymore. So I kind of had to like think about it. Like, what do I remember from this? What were the colors that I remember seeing? What kind of like stuck out to be able to curate this new space? So today and yesterday was, the title was interesting because I actually found it in one of my old sketchbooks from I think like 3 years ago, where I wrote down like, this is the name of the project and this is what it's going to be about, like recreating stuff from my hometown and my new relationship with it. And I was like, oh, well, this is perfect because this is what I want to do. So I think the curatorial work with AAP kind of helped me to have more confidence in the fact that I can mix mediums and it's okay, as long as I'm still telling the same story and people are still getting out of it what they need to. I also had to realize that some people may feel something with photos that they may not do with paintings or illustration, and vice versa, depending on like the day or like the mood. And just for me to be more conscious of that and how I like work and move helps. Yeah. You're welcome.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Okay, I have one more question, sorry. So hearing you talk about your painting and kind of like recreating experiences, plus like seeing your studio portraits and hearing you talk about like working with models, I'm curious, do you have any interest in like building out more elaborate scenes for your portraiture, or like kind of staging work on a different level? Just because I feel like I can see that for your practice.
Beautiful question. Because yes, I think that's why I want to start learning how to make clothes. Because I'm very stubborn and I want to do it by myself, and I don't want to depend on anyone, which is like like bad. But yeah. So with working with God Used Her, I think that was the first time. Yeah, the first time that I actually used like a makeup artist. I wanted to have someone who made clothes, but she kind of bailed and like didn't show up. And so I'm like, no, never again. So I'm actually like, I want to recreate a lot of the like the scenes and stuff from like movies, or just my imagination like running wild from certain songs that I listened to, childhood like storybooks that I read, and creating those scenes here, because there's a lot of land available that I want to kind of start utilizing while I can, and while I'm still here to do that. But yeah, absolutely. Like I think that would be really cool, and also just a challenge, because like the worst that can happen is I try it and it doesn't look good, and then I'll probably keep trying it again to like make sure it's all right. But yeah, no, absolutely. Also, I think it would be like really beautiful, because I've worked with some like really beautiful people who I'm like very grateful for, and I tell them every day, I'm like, I would be nothing without you, and they're like, yes you would, and I'm like, no I wouldn't, because like you helped me like, you know, become a better person, and kind of just give me the confidence that I need. Because like seeing, like working with other people who have never like been in front of a camera before, and then seeing how they kind of just like come alive and their personality comes out, I'm like, this is amazing. Like you should do this always, like all the time. And they're like, no. I'm like, all right, well thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I also wanted to ask you, Vanya, what can we all do to help support you in this time? Anything? Follow your website, look at you on Instagram.
So much. Yes. I'm going to put my Instagram in the chat. Right. So right now, I'm actually like in the long process of trying to, sorry, for some reason can't do two things at once. All right. So right now I'm in the process of trying to get an adult camera, because mine is like it's going, it's run its course. Yeah, I've had it for I think like 9-10 years now, so it's pretty shot, but I'm still working with it. Right now I'm just selling paintings. I'll be selling some prints that I have for like $20. Honestly, anything. I think I'm getting a lot of support right now. So just like following me and sharing my work, or buying my work also, and then donating would be wonderful. Yeah. Every little bit counts, and like every little bit counts, especially like right now. I just think like people even showing up to this talk makes me feel really good. So I'm gonna cry after. It's like people are busy and there's a lot of stuff going on. And so just like little things like this, I really appreciate it.
Good. Well, yeah. So you're selling paintings on Instagram or on your website?
It's on Instagram right now. Okay. Because I don't know how to, I'm working on it, learning how to do stuff from my website right now. But right now I'm just like posting photos too, the paintings that I made during quarantine and a while back that I'm just trying to like get rid of and just make more space. I'm also doing right now just a deal for other canvases I'm trying to get rid of, where it's like 3 paintings for $75. So it's a 2x2. Yeah. It's a 2x2 inch, 4x4 inch, and a 6x8 inch paintings of like your choice. Just let me know what you want. I could just mail those out, and I mail them out like every 2 weeks when I get paid, so I can use like my job money to like do art. Yes, I'm doing that right now. And then also, if you get like a 3 for the price of 1, and then you were looking at another painting that you think is like just a little too expensive, if you get the 3 for 1, I'm also making the other just pre-made painting like half off, so you can just have art. Like
love it. You heard it here, folks. Yeah, like special deals. Get them now. We also have Vanya's work at Small Mall in Lawrenceville. So come down if you're in Pittsburgh area, stop by the shop and pick up some amazing photos. So we're really excited to have that work. And anything else, Vanya, that we can support you with?
No, not that I know of.
All right.
I appreciate it.
That's easy. Well, so
Yeah.
check out Vanya's website, check out Instagram, make sure to look at her work that we have in Small Mall. It was such a joy to talk to you, Vanya. Thank you so much.
Thank
Everybody
you.
give her a little jazz hands. Thank you all. And then just so you guys know, we do have more of these PGH Photo Fairs, Small Mall Tiny Talks lined up for the fall. And then our speaker series for Photo Fair will continue. We have on September 2nd, Essa Epstein, who's the director of CPI Gallery in New York, will be doing a talk with us. So you can sign up on our website there at pghphoto.com, pghphotofair.com, sorry. And then, of course, visit Small Mall, support Vanya, support your local artists as much as you can right now. We appreciate you guys coming tonight, and I hope everybody stays safe and enjoys the rest of the summer.